Last week, I introduced us to a particular design system called Shasien. It's possible that some of us were not in that uh, meeting. So I'll try to just give a quick rundown of what it is. It has been my favorite design system. Actually, my current work, we are using this design system that is called Material UI. So we're using this Material UI design system, and it's been working for us actually, because most of the times before you choose a design system, it's not just maybe if you're a designer in your team, you don't just make the choice yourself, only yourself, right? You have to consider the engineer that is going to build this. So you have to think about which of the design system is suitable for you as the designer, and it's also suitable for the engineer, right? Because most design systems are built different, and you have to consider, okay, does my engineering team have the experience to utilize this design system, right? Or do the designers in my team have the experience to utilize this? Or are there enough materials or resources that can help us learn it? And in fact, can it even be used at all? Because maybe the design system is built in a particular way that it can't fit into the products we are building. So these are the kind of things you think about. I remember when we started out in our project, the initial plan was to use Bootstrap, right? Bootstrap CSS library. And it wasn't exactly my favorite because it didn't meet the goal of what I wanted us to build. So I asked my engineering team, can we switch to this? So before asking them, I did some research and I recommended Material UI. And Material UI has a lot of components that can be used both in design and in code. And that is the beauty of it. Then while we are still using this, but for my personal projects, what I use mostly is Shasien. So Shasien is like a design system that is built on top of many other tools. So you will see that it uses a combination of other design system platforms and other tools, so that it gives you like a comprehensive toolbox that you use to build out your project, right? And one thing I like about it is that it's very simplified, right? Because most times most design system is so huge that you don't even know where to start, right? But Shasian just makes things a lot easier, more simple, that you can actually start somewhere, right? And and like what I usually do whenever I'm trying to build out a project with a new design system, I always start from the design system website, because most design system, while as a designer, I would have preferred to have a UI kit on Figma, but most design system is built in code first before design, or unless if the company that built it intentionally created all the UI components before they start building out the components in code, right? But a design system like Shasien, they don't have an official UI kit, maybe a Figma UI kit. They don't have an official one. There are others that people has created themselves. But if you want to have the true source of knowledge, like the core place where you see the up-to-date information, this is the website where you go to. And that's how I approach every design system. So if I'm working on Material UI, I don't need to ask anywhere. I just come to this website first and I look at the documentation to see how does this component work? What can I do with that component? Right. So that's how I approach things. So today, what I want to do today, however, is that I want to, as a designer, most times we worry about the UI kit on Figma and all of that, but I want to see how we can actually take a design that we have created on Figma and then translate that design into code and see how fast it's going to be. Right? I'm not an experienced engineer, so I'm not doing it because I have the experience. I'm doing it because the design system enables me to do it as fast as possible. And I'm still able to create a very beautiful UI that is accessible, that is responsive, and everything in you know that comes with it, right? So what we're going to do is that we are going to set up a new project, all right? Then we're going to use that project to build out a simple UI, maybe like that a UI like looks like a login page, right? So that's what we're going to do. And I have here on Figma, I have this UI kit here. Let me show you. So I have this login page that I've built, and the login page is just where you can create. Okay, it's a registration page. You can create an account that shows you email field, the password field, the button, and the text. So this is what we need to build out. Now, if you have designed this on Figma, maybe you're a designer, the next question now is, okay, how do I start? How do I get started setting up this project? So depending on the tools that the engineers are using, that's what we influence what you are going to use to what you're going to use to build out this project. So in this particular instance, what we are going to do is that we are going to use it chassis itself to decide for us what we are going to build. So if we click on get started, you will see that to take us to the documentation page where we'll have all the instructions we need for every component, and also for the different type of programming language that people use to create stuff, right? So in this instance, if you go to the installation section, you see that it shows you different kind of framework that people use to build uh, projects, right? So in this case, my previous try and error, I've tried to build out a Next.js project using TypeScript and React. So that is what I would do, right? So I would just click on this Next.js, and you see now that it shows me all the step I need to take to set up chassis on my system. So at this moment, I don't have any project at all, right? So what I need to do is just run through this instruction and see what is going to happen. So I will just I will open my code editor. So on my computer, I have this code editor that is called Visual Studio Code. It's a free tool, right? And inside of it, there is a tool called the terminal. And as you can see here, you see that we should run this code in our project, right? So what I need to do, I'll just copy the code. All right. So what I will do is that I will create a new folder on my system. Okay. So I have this folder here called Design System Masterclass. So I'll just drag this folder into the Visual Studio Code, right? Then I'll open my terminal again, so I can close this. So now I'm inside this folder, and if you look at the folder, it's empty. So it's not because anything is inside of it. So there's nothing there, right? So I'll just try one more time. I'll copy this again. Now, if you look at this the setup here, once if I want to click on copy, it will ask me to choose one of these options. So these options are in for the engineers. These are what is called package managers. So if you want to install a design system code into your computer, you're going to use one of these package managers. At the moment, I have npm installed on my computer, so I can use npm as my package manager to install chassis on my computer. So if I want to copy any code here, I'll be copying with npm, right? So I can now paste it back into my system. I can paste it here and try again and see if it's going to work. All right, so it's working. So now it tells me um, that this folder does not contain any package.json file. Would I like to start a new Next.js project? So remember, I clicked on Next.js, right? So it's asking me if I want to start a new Next.js project. So I'll just click on, I'll just type yes and say, what is the name of my project? So I'll just call it uh, Shasian login, like, right? Because we want to create a login or a registration page. So now it's creating a project for me. And as you can see, it's created a folder here with all of the different files. Now, all of these files here is because we are creating what is called a Next.js project. So Next.js is a JavaScript framework for building both front end and back end application, right? So what it's going to do is that it's going to install different stuff into our application, and what things like Next.js, of course, and it's also going to install React. React is a JavaScript framework for building front-end application, and it's also going to install Tailwind. So Tailwind is here. Tailwind is a CSS library. So the simplest way to understand what Tailwind is that Tailwind is like a collection of pre-made CSS styles, right? So usually, if you want to create a CSS style, you have to define the class name, then add all the properties you want. But Tailwind has already created all of those things, and all you just need to do is to mention the class name, and Tailwind automatically will apply that class to your project. So, for instance, um, if you go to, let's say, the documentation here, and let's say we want to apply different type of display properties, right? So instead of defining a class name, applying all the styles we want, all we just need to do is to write any of these property here, and they will automatically apply all the styles we need for that particular um, UI that we are styling, right? So Shasien uses Tailwind for styling. That's why once you start looking at the all the component that Chassis gives you, you see that all the CSS styles inside of it is styled using Tailwind, right? So that's why you see here it has added this file here called Tailwind config, and it's going to now install all the other stuff that Chassis and Next.js and React needs to work, right? So once you finish installing them, we can now start our project and create all those beautiful UI that we want to create. And we don't need to guess what we need to do next. Every step that we need is already outlined here, right? So that is the beauty of it. So once you finish installing Next.js, the next thing it's going to do is to ask us to create this file that is called components.json, right? So this component, the JSON file, is what is going to tell our React project where to find all the Shasien components that we are going to add to our project, right? So once we do that, the first thing we are going to add to our project is a button, right? A button component. All right. So now, if you look at the right side here, Next.js and Next.js and Tailwind has been installed, React has been installed, and if you go to this file that is called package.json, you will see all the stuff that have been installed. You see that we have React here, we have Nest here, we have other stuff that we need here. We have Tailwind CSS and every other nice stuff that we need, right? So now we want to complete the installation of Next.js. So Next.js installation of Shasien, I mean. So Shasien comes with different type of styles, right? So it has the New York style, and it also has the default style. So what that means is that it's just, you want to choose between how the UI is going to look like. So in this case, we can just say, okay, let's go with New York, and it's going to ask us to choose what kind of base color we need. So we can just use neutral. Then it's asking us if we want CSS variable. I will show us what this means, and it's very important for us. So yes, you're going to say yes, I want CSS variable. And now, if you look at our code base here, we have what is called components.json, right? So here we have component.json, right? I have all the configuration here that tells our project where to find uh Shartian components, right? So now you see that it tells us that the configuration is successful and it created um, two files, one file, updated two files. So now, if you look at what is called app slash global.css here, now this is where included all the CSS variable that we told it that we want. Now this CSS variable is what we are going to use to set up the primary color, background color, and so on and so forth. By default, it's already set up these primary colors and background color for us. So we can actually use this default one to build out our project, right? So now that we have our project set up, what is the next thing we need to do? Right now, if you look at our app, we don't have any components here. So the first thing we need to do is to add some components, right? So if you look at our projects, what components do we need? So that is the first thing you want to consider. What component do we need? So here we have a label, an input field. So we have an input for email. And also have a label, right? Now we also need a button, right? And we can also say that we need a a card. So let's say all of this UI is inside a card component, right? So what we need to now do is to look at the first step here, which is to add a button. So we can scroll through this section here. We click on button, and the good thing about Shascn is that it gives us examples of how it will look like. So you can actually copy this code into your project and it will apply just the way it is here, right? So before we install anything, let's run our project and see how it looks like, right? So we will come to our project here and we'll type what is called, if you look at um, our package.json file, we have this section here called scripts. So script gives us all the command we need to run our project, right? So we can say, okay, npm dev. So npm dev is to run the development server uh, on our on our local machine, right? So we can just, let's say, npm run dev. So something is missing. Okay. Okay, let's see. You say we should use next dev. Now I have an issue here that the command is not working. So what I need to do now is to find a way to troubleshoot it. Okay, say that missing script dev. So see a list of scripts run. So npm run. Okay, so let's first of all run npx npm run build. Okay, interesting. Right. So I'm not sure why it's not working. So what I would do is that I will switch to a different project that I already have on my computer that is working. All right. So let me open a different project for us here and see if this is going to work. I apologize for that. Let's see. Okay. So I have this project that I used last week during our section, and let me see if it's going to work the way that I hope it will work. It's still the same Next.js chassis and React project. So let me clear this and run npm run dev. Yeah, so this is working. So I'm not sure why the other one is not working. So if I open this now on my browser, you're going to see the project that we have at the moment. So it's a very simple UI with all of this stuff, right? So right now we don't have a login page, right? So what I would do is that we want to create a login page for our design. So you already see the design on our Figma, and the what we need is to create a new login page. So let's say that our application need users to log in. So in SJS, to create a UI for login page is actually very simple. So what we need to do is that while we have this file structure inside the app folder, we're going to create a new folder that is called, let's say, want to use register for registration. And then we are going to create a new file inside of it that is called page.tsx. All right. Now, what I need to do is that I'll first of all install all the components I need. So we've already looked at it that we need a button, we need a label, we need an input field. So what I would do is I'll go back to CN and I'll go to the button and I'll scroll down here and I'll copy the button installation command, right? So that I'll go back to my project and I'll add it. And it's going to download the button component into my project. Now, the good thing about CN is that you have access to the entire code of the component. All right. So once you finish installing, we'll be able to see it on our system here. Okay, let's wait for it. Guys, I hope you're still with me. If you have any question, please just raise your hand so that I'll be sure you're following. Okay. So this is a live session, and sometimes, yeah, we can find ourselves going back and forth on the same thing. So close this. So we still have it installing. So the next component we need, we'll come back to that, is we need the card components. All right. So we already have a button component. So if you click on button here, UI, we'll see we have the CN button component right on our screen here with all the properties that CN provides us. All right. So the next thing we need to do is to install the card component. So it's the same process, right? So you copy the installation command, you go back to your terminal, and you paste it on the terminal to install the components, right? So the next thing we need is to install the input. So we have the input here. This is the input, right? So you repeat the same process over and over again. So once you install the input, the next thing you need to install is to add a label, right? Because you need a label for the inputs label here, right? So now that is it. Already I have all of these components installed here. So as you can see, if I zoom in on the UI, so all the CN components is going to be inside this folder called UI, and it's always inside another folder called components. So I have the button, I have the card, I have the input, I have the label, right? So now what we need to do, we need to create um, a simple UI components. So there are several ways we could go about this. So the purpose of this class is to illustrate the use case, right? Not to actually write code, right? It's to illustrate the use case and show you how you can actually build out a new UI very easily using all of those components. So what I would do in this instance is that I'm going to use I will use my AI chatbot here to actually build out a new login page, a new registration page, I mean, for our project. So already we have the UI here. So we could actually copy this image and feed it into chatbot, right? Well, we could also just have, you know, have the AI generate something randomly, right? So what I would do, I would just use the random generation. So I say inside page. So here I will select the login page or the registration page, create a new registration or sign up page for our project using the following component. So now what I will do is that I will reference all the components that I've just installed. So I will say card. So I will reference the card component. I will not tell it all the UI should be inside this components. And of course, wrap the entire UI, the entire page in a div element. So in Figma, that is a div is similar to a frame in Figma. So now the next step I want to do, I'll tell you to use inputs. So inputs, which is the inputs component for email and password field. And I'll tell you that each with its label using the label component, right? So then I think then lastly, okay, we can say add a it get started button using so the reason why I'm adding I'm mentioning all the components is that I don't want you to use any regular HTML button or HTML input field because it's not going to have all the styles that comes with Shadcn components, right? So now as you can see, I've mentioned the card, the button, the label, the input. So then I will also mention that. Okay, so what's important that I need to mention? Okay, so the heading inside the card is so I will say that the heading inside this card is this. So I will just copy this and I will hit okay, I will tell it to just to be sure that it doesn't make mistakes, write in TypeScript. Then I will also just reference I'll also reference the package.json so that it will know what kind of project this is. So it doesn't write something that is entirely off the script of what we are working on, right? So I'll hit enter and see what it's going to do. All right. So the first thing you will notice that it imports all the components that we just installed, the card component and all the properties of the card component. So if you look at the card component on Shadcn website, you will notice that it has different properties. So it has the card content, the description, the footer, the header, the title, right? And you can add different stuff inside of it. Now, the good thing about chassis and component is that because of the way it is built, you can add layers upon layers of content inside the card, right? There is no limitation of what kind of content you need to have inside the card, and you can customize any part of it any way you want. Because it's using Tailwind CSS, you can add classes anyhow, anywhere you want, no matter what kind of style you want. So you can have very complex cards that have all these toggles, that have all these text, the headings, and the button. So if you look at the code for this card component, this section here is the card header, right? This section here is a card uh, content. Then where you have the button here is the card footer, right? So that is how it's structured. So if you look at the code, you will see that they first of all import all the components we need, and then they now built it. So you see that inside the card header, we have the card title, and we have the title, we have the card description, we have the description, and you don't need to style anything. You see that no style was added because the style is already on the card component itself. So when you add a card title, it already knows what style to use. That's why you see that the title has a large font size and is bolder, and the description has smaller font size, and it has a fainted color, right? Because inside the code of the card components, we already defined all those classes, right? So now we have this code generated for us here, and it's actually very simple. So let's see if it's going to work. So let's import it, and we don't have any error. So let's hope that works. So let's just quickly run through what is here. We have the card components, the input, the label, and the button imported from the folder where we installed it, and it now builds this simple React UI with all the components. So you see here we have the card header, and we have get started with AI base. Then we have because there's no description, I did not give it any card description. That's why I do not have a card description. So which means that you don't even need to use all the properties that's inside a card component, right? Code is the nice thing about the entire experience. All right. So the next thing you will see, hold on, give me a minute. I'm sure. Okay. I'm just checking if my recording is still working. All right, it's working. All right. So the next thing you will see is that we have the section for the input. So we have the label, the input, and we have the label, the input, and we have the card content is done. Now we have inside the card footer, we have the button that says get started. All right. So let's see how this works. So if you go back to our browser and we type slash register, let's see if it works. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have a login page, right, with all the styles. Now you see the beauty, right? We have the button styled, we have the input field, we have the label, we have the heading. Everything is exactly as it is. So we cannot take it a step further by customizing all of these things the way you have it here, right? So this is showing us we have this warm red color here as the primary color. So if I go back to my projects and I change the primary color to that red, we will get exactly the same vibe that we have here on Figma. So what I will do is I will look at the styling for the color. So I'll just look at the HSL properties here, the color, and inside this folder here, I'll go to the primary, right? So the primary, I will change it to 15, 70%, 40%. All right. Now, if we go back to our browser, we should have very similar vibes as we have on the card. So yeah, we have it here. Mind you, is the way colors are displayed on Figma is usually not how it is displayed on the web, on the browser. So that is why you notice these discrepancies in the UI. All right. So, but in general, we have our component. So you see that the card is already styled for us with the borders and the drop shadows, and the label is already styled for us. It has a placeholder. It has the password is already styled with the placeholder. And if you go back to our system here, you see that the code generated already told this input field that this is going to be a password, this is going to be an email, right? Now that is the beauty of the chassis component, because you can add all of these properties into the component, right? Now let me show you what I mean by you are able to style this UI the way you want. So if you look at our design, the 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 button is stretching full width of the input field. So we could come back to our UI here, and we see that the button is not stretching. So what we could do is to now use uh, the Tailwind CSS that we talked about, because Tailwind CSS is incorporated into Chassis. So if you go back to Tailwind CSS, we want to style the width. So what we need to do is to search for width. I don't know the width to use, so I'll just search for it. And if you scroll down here, we'll see different examples. So let's see. Okay, so you see that we have this layout, and it tells us that if we use width dash full, we are going to have our elements span the full width of our UI, right? So, and that's what we want. So what we need to do first is that we are going to inside the button, we are going to add the property that is called class name, right? Because on chassis, you can pass a class name property to a chassis component. So we can now write class name, right? So class name, and we'll now type. So let me bring back the UI so you see the changes in real time. So we type inside the class name, we are going to type width dot slash dash full, because that is the name that Tailwind told us. And let's see if it's going to work. Yeah, it works. So you see that we are getting there, right? We are getting there. And of course we could style all of these things to give us the exact same vibe that we have on our Figma here. But the other thing I want to add here, I want to add this secondary button. So if you look closely, you see that the secondary button it has an outline, right? It doesn't have a background color. It's an outline button, and it has a button. So to do that, we could easily replicate all we just did here. So inside the footer, what I would do is that I will maybe let's say I will create a new div, which is if like a frame. So I'll just create a new class name, and I'll add it margin top for I want to have a space between the first button and the next one. So what I will do is that I will duplicate this button, right? And I will add this button inside this div that I created. Right. Now you will see that you will now see that we now have two two buttons. But you see that the buttons are side by side, but I want the button to stack on top of each other, just like we have on uh, our UI, right? So what I would just do is that, remember I told you you can add um, tailwind classes to the chassis component, and that is the beauty of it. You can extend it however way you want. So inside of the card footer component, I will add a class name, and I will just change it to flex, right? And I will say flex row. So flex column. So these two properties is what is going to make these two button to span um top, to stack against each other, right? So now we have that, and what we need to do, we can also make this full width. Okay, so now we have two buttons that is identical, but in our case here, the second button is an outline. So we want to make the second button an outline. How do we do that? If you go to the chassis uh, website, you click on button, we scroll down, we are going to see that we have different examples, right? We have the primary, which is the one that has a background. We have the secondary. It has a background, but it's a fainted background, right? We have the destructive, which you can use for things like to cancel or to delete. So we have the outline. So this is what we want. So we want an outline. All right. So what we need to do is that we can actually just copy this one, or we can create it ourselves. And to create it is simple. We already have the button. So all we need to do is to change the style or the variant to outline. So if we open the components folder, inside here you will see all the properties that this uh, component has. So this button component has different variants. So we have the default, destructive, and outline, right? So what we need to just do is to call this property that is called variant, and we choose the type of property we want, which is outline. So we come back to here and we say that, okay, we want to change this variant to, instead of using default, we are going to use outline. And look at what happens. It's going to change the color, the border, the text color, and everything. The shadow, everything is going to change. So you don't need to rebuild this entire button from scratch, right? So all we need to now do is to go back to Figma and copy the text, go back to our code and paste it here. So we say um, continue with Google. Now, but one thing stands out. This has uh, a button, an icon inside of it, right? So how do we add an icon? Very pretty straightforward. We could just come back to the documentation and look for anyone that has an icon. So you see here, this has an icon, right? So aside Tailwind CSS, Chassis also incorporates this, what is called Lucid uh, icon library. So Lucid icon library is an open source library that you can use in your code for free, right? And the beauty of it is that it is SVG, so you can change the color, the styles, and everything. So let's see if they have a Google icon. Hopefully, they don't. Okay. So what we are going to do is that we're just going to use a random icon just to illustrate the goal of our project. So here we have um, okay, let's use the email. So we have this email icon. All right. Now, one thing we need to be sure of is that we need to be sure that we can use Lucid icon inside our project. By default, when you install React in your application, it also installs the Lucid icon. But you can also confirm by going to the package.json file and look for what is called Lucid React, right? So you see that it's here, and because it's here, you already have access to all of this icon, right? So what is the name of this icon? The name of the icon is called mail. So we can just copy. Okay, let's copy the name. Let's see, copy component name, right? Now we can go back to our project where we have the icon. And if you look at our design, the icon comes before the text, right? So which means that we need to have this icon somewhere before this text. So let's bring this down here. So inside the button, we can now paste this icon. So you see that it's called mail. So to make it a component, we can wrap it inside this and also close it. Now it's telling us that it cannot find mail, so we need to import this into the project, right? So the good way to do it is that you can select the mail, you use your control space bar on your keyboard, and it's going to bring up options for you. And now you can see it's telling you to import mail from Lucid React. So if you click yes, now we have this mail icon. Now if you go back to our UI, you'll see that we have a mail icon here, right? So you see that, and it's also styled for us. And because the icon is a React icon, we can edit the size, everything. Now, for you to know what you can change, you can come to this website and look at all the properties that is available for a particular icon. So it's that you can change the stroke width, you can change the size. So let's say we want to change the size to 16 to 20. Let's say we want to change the size to the stroke width to 1.5. And now what we can do, we can actually just copy what is called copy the JSX, right? Then we come back to this place here and we can replace this one with what we copied. So if what you notice that it now adds a size with the property of 20 and a stroke width with the property of 1.25, right? Now if you go back to our projects, you will see that is now smaller and the stroke width is now smaller. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we can also add space between the the button and the icon, the label and the icon, I mean. And because this is Chassis, we can always add more Tailwind CSS inside the class name property here. So we can add a gap. Let's say we add a gap of 2, and it will automatically add space in between these two. So now you see that we have this space, which makes it a lot nicer than it was before. And it looks very close to what we have here, right? So that's how you can go ahead to customize the entire experience to get all of this stuff working for you. So we successfully created a card component with an input field for button, for password, and for email. And it's so accessible that you can actually, you know, select email from your saved uh, system, right? Because already it can recognize that this input is an email, this input is a password, right? So I can select a saved password here to fill up this space. And the other beautiful thing is that this entire UI is completely responsive for one, right? That is for one. And the other beauty of it is that this entire UI is also accessible, right? So I can navigate through all the UI using my input, my keyboard, right? So if you see, I can navigate to the email, I can navigate to the password, I can navigate to the button, I can navigate to the other button. Now, if you were to build out all of these things yourself, you have to consider, you have to build out all those accessibility requirements. And but using a design system like this already gives you access to all of these things out of the box, and you don't have to worry about accessibility. So in Figma, the approach of what I just did will be the reverse, right? So in Figma, you already have the UI kit of the design system, right? So um, okay, so let's see. I have my Figma here. Let me just minimize this. We no longer need it. We no longer need this. So I can put this here. All right. So I have this UI stuff here that I don't know if you can see my Figma screen. So I found let me go to the Figma community, and I think somewhere in my folder I saved a, a UI UI library that contains a very good number of. So let me search for it. It's called Chassis. I've used it last when we did the last section, but the chassis and the UI kit is not very comprehensive, so it doesn't give you a full scope of a design system UI kit, right? But most of the times, when you are working with a design system, like maybe a standard design system, you have the documentation websites that we have now that shows you all the the code examples, how to install it, right? So Chassis is built for developers, but if you're looking if you look at other if you look at other design system, let's say we look at Material UI, Material 3, I think it's called Material 3 now. Yes, Material UI. You see that their documentation is both for developers and for designers, because they'll show you how to uh, how to use the colors, how to use the text, how to use everything, right? So we have, you see that here we have develop. So let's say we were developing for web. Now you obviously see all the documentation you need for your project as a developer, right? But if you're designing, now you'll be interested in something like the the colors, how to set up the colors, and so on and so forth. Now, what one thing I would definitely want to look for once I'm exploring a new design system is that, as a designer, I want to see if they have a Figma UI kit. So you see that Material 3 Design have a Figma UI kit, right? Which I can use in my project. So what this means is that this UI kit is a reflection of the code base, right? But most of the times, well, depending on the company, if the UI if the design system is being maintained by a company, there could be updating the UI kit, and also updating the code, and also updating the documentation, right? So that if you're designing, you can always go to the documentation to read how to use a UI kit, and also if you're developing, you can go to the documentation to read how to use the code, right? So in this case now we have a very good uh a good place to start, because now we have a design system that already have a UI kit, right? Now, if you decide to build out a let's say you decide to build out this this same component we just created in code, right? If you decide to build out this same component in Figma, the first thing you need to do, you need to have access to the UI kit. So let's say we want to use the UI kit that this guy created. So we can open this UI kit in our Figma file. So let's see where we can open it here. So if you open it, we now have access to all these components that we just used. So let's see if we have it here. Let me go to primitive. So if I zoom in, you see that we have the same button component. So you see, this is the default variant that we used, right? This is the outline. See that? Now what else are we going to look for? We need an input. So we are going to be looking for the input component to see if we have it here. Should be somewhere. Yes, look at it here. So we have an input component here, right? That we can use. And the good thing is that the guy even added the button and so on and so forth. So we also have the label here, right? So what we now need to do we now need to assemble the component. So let's say, for instance, we want to design a new UI. So what we can do actually, let me make this start screen so you can see. Okay, I think that's much. Let me see. So what we need to do is to we can just create a new frame, and all we have to now start doing is to look for the components that we need, right? So if you're working in a team and you're using Figma, by best practice, this component library will be published to your team space. So you can publish this to your team space so that you can have access to these components anywhere in your file. Because by practice, you're not supposed to be designing inside the file that has all the components. Because this is your UI kit, or this is your design system components file. So you're not supposed to design it inside the component file. You can do that, right? Like in this case now, we're just illustrating how to use it. So we don't need to go to creating a new file, right? But in practice, if you're working in a team, what you need to do is to publish your design system to the Figma, your team space. So if I publish this now, my team space, if I go back to this team here, if I go back to this team here, every file inside this team is going to have access to that design system UI kit, right? But in this case, we're just illustrating how to use it. So we could safely use the design inside the file here. So what we need to do is to first of all, let's say we want to create a new file, a new page. So we are creating our registration page, right? So what we need to do now is to first of all, you will want to go through the documentation to know how to use the design system, right? So for Shascn, you will not see documentation to know how to use Shascn on Figma, right? But if you're designing on Figma and this is your first time, I think it would be a good practice to use a design system that has good documentation both for designers and for developers, you know, such as the material design system, right? Because it has good documentation. So you could see how to set up everything you need. Like you can how to set up the colors, right? How to set up the colors, the elevation, the icons, and the typography, because you need all of these things in your design, in your Figma design system UI kit for you to be able to assemble them into the the UI, right? So, in this instance, since we are using the CN and we just copy this particular UI kit from the Figma community, we're going to make use of what we have inside of it, right? So, if we want to create a new login page, now what we need to do is to assemble all those components. So, which component do we need? We need a button, right? So, we search for the button, right? So we can drag the button in here. That is number one, right? So what other thing do we need? We need, let's say we need the input. So let's say we need the input. What is it called? Input. Yeah, we have this input. So this is one of the reasons why I said that this wasn't the best UI kit to reference, because the way it is designed, they did not follow exactly the way it is on the on the documentation on the chassis website, right? Because in this case now we have we have a we have a design system that has an input field with a button in it, but by default we don't have a button on the chassis website for an input field. But we could actually turn off this button, right? So we could also turn up the help text, and now we have the input field and we have the label, right? So now what do we need to do to get things working? We can also just um, I put this inside an auto layout frame, right? Remember what we saw on that chassis website. We saw that all the content of the card was inside what is called card content, right? So since we just created a new frame, we could actually just rename this frame to what? We could just rename this frame to card content, right? Is a good practice to use the same vocabularies as the design system, so that when engineer is looking at this, okay, they will know exactly that, okay, this is the same uh, this is the same as what we have on the website, right? So we have this UI here, so we can actually just play around this, and we can also make this an auto layout, so that you will see all the properties, right? Now we could just change this to what? This is for password, right? So we can change this to password, and we can also change this to the placeholder which says enter your password, right? So the good thing is that you know for sure that this is exactly how the engineers is going to build out this UI, because we just saw it, right? So we are very certain about that. Now, one thing that we want to do is that we want to wrap this button inside a frame, just like we have on the website. We want to wrap inside a frame called the card footer, right? So we wrap it inside a frame, and we call it card footer. Exactly the same naming convention that they used on the website, right? So we have this going, and then we know that if let's see something here. Let's see if this guy has a card component. So if it has a card component, let's see, it has a credit card. Hmm, let me see. Okay, it doesn't have a card component. So if you had a card component, all of these things will be there. So, but let's just assume that this frame is a card component. So what we need to just do is to style it. By default, if there was a card component on this UI kit, you already have all the styling and properties of that card component, right? But in this case, there is none, so you can't really get those things there. But this is how you add all of these stuffs into your projects. Now we could just play around with this, and for this card we could also uh, make it full width, make the card full width, so that it will span exactly the way we saw it on the UI, and we know for sure that we are able to replicate this because we have already seen it in the code, right? So now we have uh, the same flow here, and you can actually just change this to get started, right? And what is remaining here is the heading, which is get started here. So we could just add add the text component here, and paste it. So we change this to, let's say we change this to black. Okay, we could also change this to H2. Okay, it's too big, you can use H3. Yeah. So you see that our component is coming together, right? Exactly as we want it. So one thing we don't want this input field to be this huge. If we want the card component to be a little bit thinner, so we could just make this one also to be field container. And now we have very, very similar UI as our design. And the last thing we need to do, we need to add the next button. And this button is going to be the outline. So what we need to do is actually to, inside the button, okay, let's duplicate this. And inside it, we can change this button, the type to outline. right? Because already we have those properties there. You see that? And then what we need to do is to change the text to, okay, we have this button need to have an icon, right? So we could change it to the one that says with icon. Okay, it doesn't have outline with icon. So you see this UI kit is not complete, right? So let's just use the one without icon, and we just say continue with Google. Okay, so you see that our UI is coming together. So we could actually just switch to the color we are using here just to have the same vibe as uh, other colors. So here we could break this. So now before I do that, let me just make one thing clear, is that if you're working with a design system, by default you already have all of these basic things set up, right? So you already have all the color systems, you already have all the color schemes, you already have all the typography, right? So you see that in this particular one here, we already have all the typography set up here, right? So you don't need to set it up yourself. Now you also see that we already have all of these colors set up here. But one thing what I noticed is that this is just using uh, the 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 color palette direct. It's not really defining anything. But if you remember in our code example, we have this global CSS that defined all our project properties. So it has the background, the foreground, and so on and so forth. So if this UI kit was complete, you're going to have all of those colors already defined here so that we can easily just change our color. So by default, you're not supposed to add a color by, let's say you add a color like a random color like this, right? I'm supposed to choose a color from the color library here that has already been defined for the purpose of adding a background color to text. So if you look at the UI that we created, you will see that the the background color, the primary color that we are using is this one red or orange color, right? So in our design, we are going to be defining a background color that is called background, and that is called primary, and we are going to be using this color as the color of that color style, so that everywhere in our design we are going to be using that particular color as our primary color. So in the future, if we decide to change our primary color, all we just need to do is to go to our library and change it, right? So let me see if I have it set up here. Um, okay, so if I open my Figma local variable, you see that I have I have the Chartesian color style set up here, and we have the the background color, the foreground, the card color, the foreground, and so on and so forth. But also we have the primary color and we have the primary foreground. So this is the background color, or it could be the text color. This is the text color for whatever is wherever you define this background color. So as you can see here, if we define this button as primary, right? So the text color is going to be primary foreground, because that is what it's supposed to be. So we're going to define this as primary foreground. So by default, this is already set up to have good contrast. Of course, as a designer, you have to, if you are the one building out the design system, you will have to take extra steps to make sure that all your colors are accessible when you're setting up these colors, right? So, but if you're using the Chartesian approach, it gives you a default template that has good accessible colors, so that when you use it, you can easily switch to a different color and it will work perfectly, right? So if for any reason, let's say also I have this color here, I can also choose primary and I can also choose foreground. Now, if for any reason I want to change my primary color to blue, what all I need to do is to come to my local variables here in Figma, and let me just minimize this so you see. So I come to my local variable here in Figma, and what I need to do, okay, let me just zoom this in so you can see more. What I need to do is to switch this color from red or warm red to blue. And as you can see, everywhere in my design, the color is going to change. You see that? That's the beauty of using a color system already defined in your file. So the same way you would define the color system in your code here, that's the same way you're going to define the color system in your Figma file. So that if you're a designer, you're going to be using the color system in your design. If you're a developer, you're going to be using the color system in your code, right? And the same thing applies to the typography and the borders, the corner radius, and so on and so forth, right? But we're not going to cover that today. All right. So yeah, thank you for staying through, and I hope to see you next week.